Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to our platform shooter part 18. I got it right this time. And in this video, we're going to be talking about, well, there's a couple things. First of all, I felt like because of the way that the game was set up, that having a small room like this, like I'd originally planned, a small room that didn't have a lot of places to move and go in, I felt like it didn't really make sense for the type of game that we are currently building. The character, when I was playing the game, the character feels really constrained. It feels like you can't get out of the way of the enemies. The looping thing that we did, where you can warp to the sides, has some potential bugs in it, I've been told, because of when you loop to the next area, it doesn't really check to see if there's a solid there. So I haven't ever been able to reproduce this bug, but some people have told me that they've been able to get stuck. So because of those, I've decided to make the room bigger, and I think that could make this game a little bit more interesting as we build on top of it. And so making the room bigger, we obviously need to have a camera. Now, it's funny because Sean just did his camera video this week on his platformer shooter. So it's going to look like I'm copying Sean, and that's totally fine. We both have a slightly different approach to cameras, but it's going to be pretty much the same thing. It's going to work very similar. So I would recommend watching his video as well to see his approach and kind of get a general idea of how to use cameras. We both go for the simpler approach, I think, instead of getting super fancy with it. So let's get started. I'm going to right click on objects and do create an object. And I'm going to name this O_camera. And we don't need this right now. I'm going to add a create event to this camera. And inside of here, we don't need a description for this. This is just the create event. We're going to initialize some variables for our camera. And we're going to get a target that we want the camera to follow. Set this to object player. We're going to get the camera width. And you just use camera get width. I'm going to drag. And I just totally made a new workspace window when I didn't mean to do that. Okay. So it's actually camera get view width. And then the camera, and we'll just do view camera 0, and we'll need to set this in the room. Height equals camera get view height, view camera 0. And let's see, we'll not worry about scaling this any yet. Now I'm going to add a step event, and inside here we're just going to say if not instance exists, target exit. So we just need to make sure our target exists before we try to move towards it. If it does exist, then we'll just use our linear interpolate function. So we'll say x equals lerp x target underscore dot x. We'll move there at 10% each frame. We might end up changing that value. We'll see. Then we lerp the y position, and then we move the camera, because we're currently just moving this object, so we actually need to move the camera. Camera set view position, view camera 0, x, so our current x position minus the view's width divided by 2. Now let's show you what it does if you just do x and y. It's good to show the problem before the solution. Okay, so we've created our camera. Let's come to our battle room, drag the camera object into the room, And I'll just put it above the player like this for now. Then we need to go into our actual, let's minimize these right here because we want to be able to see the room settings. We'll come into viewport and cameras and viewport 0. Make sure, oh, we've already set it all to visible and stuff. I forgot we'd done that. So we should be good to just run the game. And there you go. This is the problem with making the camera follow the player's exact position, because the corner of the camera is moving towards the player. Okay. So there's the problem, and the way that we fix that is just by subtracting the width of the camera divided by 2. That will put the player in the center. And height for the Y. And here we go. Now our player character is in the center of the room. You can see that our health bar doesn't follow the camera right now. And it's also kind of hard to see the enemies because the camera's following us exactly. So we may not want to follow the target's exact position. We might want to follow a little bit above the target or below the target. Actually, yeah, above the target. So we'll do Y minus height divided by 4. Let's see how that looks. I think that'll put the player height divided by 4. Yeah, it puts the character about 2/3 of the way down the screen, which makes sense. The weird thing is going to be warping. Watch how warping works. It's kind of cool. Anyways, so now we're going to want to take out warping. So I'm just going to come into the player, into the step event. Let's see, where is it? Remove warp. And then I'm going to come into the enemy step event, remove warp as well. Don't need that. So we just removed warp. Now we need to make sure that our health bar is drawn. Instead of just doing draw right here, we actually want to change this event. So right click on it. I don't need the room anymore for now. Right click on this event. Do, where's change event? Change event and draw GUI. And that should draw the health bar to the GUI layer. However, it will still actually draw the health bar in the room. We need to override the default draw event. So let me show you. We'll have 2 health bars in this case. So you see we've got the health bar that's drawn to the GUI layer and the health bar that's drawn up here. And so we need to fix that. So let's add an event, a draw event, and we can just leave this empty right here. Don't do normal draw. So this empty event right here prevents it from doing its normal draw. And so we just get then our health bar in the GUI layer. You can see that the GUI layer is not the correct size. And we can set that inside of our game object. So in the create event of the game object, do display set GUI size. And for the width and height, we just want to do the width and height of our view in the room. So we'll just use these same, where's our camera? We can use these same functions right here. Pretty sure. And I'm going to use an underscore here. Want to get the height this time. Okay, so we've got the width and height of the camera, should be. And then we should be able to set the GUI width and height. think that'll work. So we just get the camera view width, the camera view height, and then set the GUI size to be the same. That way they should have the same pixel ratio. And there you go. Our health bar is now working displaying correctly. Okay, now we want to, let's make the room bigger. So come into our battle room right here. And let's just give the room a lot bigger. Let's just make it a lot wider basically for now. So I'm going to give it a width of, instead of, let's just do 1280 for now for the width. And then we can come to our, holy cow, that sure expanded out there. I feel like it didn't need to expand out that much. There we go. Let's come to our ground tiles and our tile set. Let's add some more tiles here. Come up a little higher right there. Drop down. And let's bring the edges all the way to the top this time. Remove this, remove that. I like having a little bit of a spot right there. I'm actually going to bring this up, step up a little bit there, and then have a platform here. Just because I think that's kind of cool. There we go. Something like that. And let's come into our solids. Make sure these now line up with our new shapes. So this one can just stretch. Well, this one right here, we can stretch it back to here. This one, we can just stretch all the way up to the top. This one right here, stretch it to there. Let's grab our solid object right here. Drag it in. Hold Alt so we can just place them in now and don't have to worry about. There we go. Now if I remember, our enemy spawner takes the room width. Let's double check that to make sure. Random range, room width, perfect. So now it should actually create enemies the entire width of this room. And this gives our player a little bit more space to move around in. Holy cow, that's a whole flurry of bullets coming at me right there. Oh, dang. Got me. Let's just hide under here for a second. Oh, still got me. So we've got a little bit more room to work with here. The enemies are they fire pretty fast. So I'm going to slow their fire rate down just a tad. And let's see. That would be inside of the movement state. We have enemy fire bullet, which inside here we set the bullet cooldown. I've got a variable for it. Good job. Now I just need to make sure and use it. Let's just do... Oh, and I've been reminded that room speed is now obsolete. So we should be using get speed, game speed, frames per second. So we'll just make them fire twice as often. And we'll do random right here so that they don't start firing right away. And I think we should eventually make them smart enough that they don't fire when there's a line, when there's a wall in the way. I think it'll make a lot more sense. Ooh, did you see that? I just jumped through all those bullets. Oh, man. See, this feels better to me already. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that our camera can't go outside the view still. And the way we can do this is by clamping. We can clamp the position. We can clamp this object's position. And so we can say x equals clamp. And our value that we're going to clamp is the x position. The minimum value should be, it should be width divided by 2. Okay. The maximum value should be room width minus width divided by 2. And we can clamp the y as well. Y equals clamp y. And since we're actually moving to, yeah, I think we just clamp it. We just clamp it normally. So height divided by 2, room height minus height divided by 2. And this just forces these values to stay within these values. That's what the clamp function does. And so we should now prevent the camera from going outside the view boundaries. And oh, there we go. Oh, dang. I get like stuck over here. I feel like I should go to the other side of the level. Over here. Clicked outside the view. And died for it. Okay, so that works really well now with the camera set up like that. And since this video is not feeling very long yet, I think we should add a score. So come into the game object in the create event, let's add a score. Score equals 0. And every time an enemy dies, we should add to the score. Score plus equals 10. And let's display the score now. And our health bar, I think we could just display it inside of, depends on if you want the score to be displayed all the time. But we do have a draw GUI right here. That's for pausing. Let's display the score all the time. And we'll do draw set H align. So this will set our font's alignment. We'll do FA right. And we'll say draw text. And we can draw this. Let's do room width minus 4. Room height minus 4. For the X and Y position. The string that we want to draw, so the text that we want to draw is going to be score, the colon, space. And then we need to add our actual score value, because this is just the word score, but we need to add the actual score that we have in the game, which is score. However, we can't just do score like this, because this is a number and we're trying to add it to a string value, and you can't add a number to a string value. So what you have to do is convert this number into a string as well. And you can do that by calling string. Just like that. And it converts our number into a string. Then we can add it to this and draw it. Let's run. Oh, we want to set our draw set h-align fa left. I like to have my alignment set by default to left. So whenever I change it to the right, I always change it right back to left afterwards, after I've already done the drawing. Let's see how this looks. Probably what's going on here? I've done something silly, obviously, because it's not drawing the score. Room width. Oh, I don't want to do room height -4. I just want to do 4. Oh, silly me. The room width's not going to work. Because, yeah, that was silly. Because the room is way wider than we need it to be. So display, get GUI width. That's what we want. We want the GUI width anyways. There we go. There's our score. And we'll subtract a little more than 4. Let's do 6. There we go. It doesn't look very nice because of the font, so let's create a new font. We'll just name this font 1. And we can sure Arial's fine. I'll make it a little smaller. I don't want anti-aliasing on, so I'm going to turn it off. This is going to make it more pixelated. Instead of, yeah, I think that's good enough. And then all we need to do is in our game, we'll just set the font in the create event. Draw, set, font 1. And let's see how that looks. It doesn't look very good. Let's make it a little bigger. Maybe the anti-aliasing will look okay in this game. Let's turn it back on and see how it looks. Yeah, I don't like anti-aliasing. And it doesn't let you select an amount, it just gives you the anti-aliasing. Let's try Calibri. And just a thing that I should mention is that you really shouldn't. No, that's better right there. I wonder what that looks like with anti-aliasing on. You really shouldn't ship these fonts with your game because they are. It's like it didn't save. Did you see that? I've got anti-aliasing on, but it's not showing it. Unless this doesn't have anti-aliasing really at this time. I want to make it bold for the... Holy cow, that's really bold. Yeah, that matches this game better though, because I've got like thick outlines on stuff. So that looks pretty good. Cool. So we've got our font working now. and it looks pretty good. We don't have a high score system yet. We don't have a game over screen yet. Those are things that we still need to add to this and maybe improve the way that the gameplay feels even a little bit more. But hopefully you guys found this video. Like I said, it's just coincidence that I happened to decide to do the camera at the same time, the very same week that Sean did his. But just look at both of them. See, kind of get an idea for different methods of doing the same thing. There's a lot of different ways to do the same thing inside of GameMaker, and it's good to have a broad understanding of a lot of the different methods, and you can kind of decide which one works best for you. If you like this video, be sure and give it a like and share it, and I will talk to you guys later.